Hi, in this presentation, I'm going to talk about the nuts and bolts of the analytical expository essay. I'm going to focus on thesis statements, the regular approach to writing an essay, and the problem solution essay. So, how do we begin? We begin with a point. You need a point. You need something you care about so that you can be interesting. If you don't care, you won't be interesting. And if you're not interesting, your reader won't be interested. So find something you care about, something that's debatable, something like we need to arm our teachers because of point 1, point 2, and point 3. Or the three best kinds of dogs are Dalmatians, Huskies, and Poodles. And I'm not offering either of these topics because they're great, because they're not great, but they show you the organization. There's a point, and then there are subpoints, and then you support the subpoints. Okay, so you need to take a strong stance. When you are writing your paper, I don't want you to be wishy-washy. Even if you don't have a strong stand when you're writing the paper, pretend that you do. Your job is to be persuasive. How can you be persuasive if you aren't persuaded by it? So I want you to take a stand and stick with it. But by that, I don't mean that you are committed to that stand in the during the writing process, when you first begin your research, when you begin to write, when you write your first draft. Your position is going to evolve over time. And so when you're ready to submit your final paper, I want you to be committed to the stand that you chose and stick with it as you begin working on your paper. Okay? You can flip-flop before. You can flip-flop during the semester. But when you get to that final paper, I want you to be clear. Okay? And I want you to make sure your position is supportable. You can use logos, irrefutable evidence to be persuasive. You can back up your position with facts and statistics and examples and the informed opinions of experts in the field, which is ethos. But I want you to have that stuff. So sometimes you see in papers phrases like, most people believe that blank is blank. Is this true, or is the writer just making up stuff to fill space or to try and be convincing? And when somebody says something like most people believe, are you convinced, or are you thinking, my God, they're making that stuff up? They're just lying. If you're going to say most people anything, I'm going to expect a statistic from a credible source. So the state police report that 76% of Michigan drivers, blah, blah, blah. If you can find a statistic from the state police, you will be very credible, much more credible than if you went with something vague like most people. So a thesis statement is the bolt that holds it all together. It's sort of like the trailer, although the trailer often just takes the best parts of the movie and shows you that. And when you get to the movie, you go, whoa, I could have just watched the trailer. But with a thesis statement, it gives you an idea about the most important points of the essay. It shows the highlights, it shows you the order, and it makes you want to read more. It's also like a lighthouse. It offers a clear direction, and it eliminates confusion, both for you and for your reader. So a good thesis statement is focused, not broad. And we're looking at papers between 1,100 and 1,300 words. Is the first example here a good one? It's tough to be an obese child. No, not so much. It's not focused, and it's probably not arguable. I would think most people, or 76% according to the Michigan State Police, believe that it's tough to be an obese child. How about this one? Obese children face medical, social, and emotional problems. Well, it's good. It gives you a sense of direction, but it wouldn't fit in 1,100 to 1,300 words. It would be just a very general, cursory discussion of the possible points. So it would require that you would focus in a little more tightly. How about the next one? Because the medical, social, and emotional problems obese children face are so damaging, schools should adopt stringent, mandatory nutrition and exercise programs starting in kindergarten and continuing through college. That seems to be pretty focused. It does, and it seems like it. You could provide reasons for that within 1,300 words. So I think this is a good one. Okay. How about debatable? A good thesis statement is debatable. Which is debatable? There are a lot of homeless people living in Lansing, or Lansing's homeless should be given access to services such as regular food donations, public restrooms, and camping facilities, because that would improve life for everyone in the Lansing area. The point of this paper is, I think, would be a comparison contrast paper on, or a comparison paper on how the life of those people who are homeless would be improved with food, restrooms, and camping facilities, and how the people who live in houses, people who aren't homeless, would be benefited if the homeless were treated this way. Okay. Pick a side and stick to it. Secondhand smoke is bad and can cause heart disease and cancer. Therefore, smoking should be outlawed in public places. But outlawing smoking is unfair to smokers, so maybe smokers can just hold their breath or wear masks around smokers instead. Well, this is like really wishy-washy, you know? It's just vague. It doesn't offer much of anything other than a not particularly useful solution. The second one is better. Secondhand smoke is just as harmful as smoking and leads to a higher prevalence of cancer and heart disease. What's worse, people who inhale secondhand smoke are forced to do so without their consent. For this reason, smoking in any public place should be banned. The thesis is smoking in any public place should be banned because of the danger of secondhand smoke. And I think that that's probably good for an essay of this size. Okay, a good thesis statement might be the basis of the research question you use when you begin to look for support. It might be the question you want to explore, the questions that you think might engage your audience, or questions about which there is substantial debate. So make your question focused and challenging, not just factual, and grounded. And you can find more information on how to do this in a pocket style manual. So I'm going to talk about two different ways of organizing your analytical paper right now. And the first one is sort of the traditional approach. You start with an interesting introduction. And that introduction can include a story, a provocative quote, or statistic, or a question. Not a question that the reader can answer with a yes or a no, because that'll just stop the reader if the answer, either way, they won't want to read your paper. If their answer is yes, why would they read your paper? If their answer is no, they won't want to read your paper. So not that kind of question, an open-ended one. And it should lead directly to your thesis. And your thesis clarifies the point you'll be making within the paper. So in option 1, you have this interesting introduction. And then in the next paragraph, you handle the first subpoint that supports the main point, your thesis. You start with a topic sentence, which is the point of the paragraph. What is this paragraph going to be all about? So the topic sentence is to the paragraph as the thesis statement is to the paper. You add sources that support this point. And you signal in for your sources, and you use the parenthetical information at the end of your source. And you provide analysis of why you included this source. So out of the 600 million sources that could have come up when you did a Google search, why did you pick this one? Why is it the best one? Why does it best support your point? And you also provide analysis of why you believe as you do. That's where you're persuasive. That's where the paper is interesting. Okay, and then each of the following couple of paragraphs do the same thing, one point to each paragraph. And the conclusion is more than a summary of the points or restating the thesis statement. Truly it is. Add something, add additional insight, if you began with a story, end with a story. If you began with a quote, end with a quote. add a statistic, add a call to action, find some additional way to be persuasive. Okay, this is option 2, and that's the problem solution paper. And it involves solving a problem. So in the introduction, you describe the problem, and it's something that you can fix. So it's not world hunger. It's not. It's something you can fix. So maybe it's the potholes in Michigan. Maybe it's the fact that textbooks are expensive. Maybe it's about the parking situation at school. Then after you do that, you examine possible solutions and find the best one. And then the body of the paper primarily is explaining why your solution is the best one. It involves research. It involves you going beyond what you know about the problem to find out more about the problem. What are the causes? What's the current situation? What are the long-term effects? What are the possible effects if nothing is done? What the other solutions are and why they are less workable. Are they more expensive? Are they short-term solutions? Your analysis is why your solution is the best one. You anticipate objections, you get your reader on board with you, and you're persuasive because you know about the cost, you know about the unintended consequences that might happen. You have a backup plan if your solution falls through. You're persuasive because you're incorporating logic, credibility, and pathos. So those are 2 options for your papers. Okay, so thank you. Talk to you soon.